Hey everyone, welcome back to the sunny side. I'm Sunny, and today I'm gonna rank the top kinkiest signs of the Zodiac. Alright! Okay, first things first. I put timestamps in the description box below, so if you want to skip the blah blah and head directly to the list, go ahead and I'll catch up with you later on in the video. Alright, next. As always, the list is based in astrology, but it's a little bit subjective. So if you have your own lists or comments or questions or any blah blah from yourself, then leave it in the comment section and I'll do my best to, to read out some of the best lists on the weekly love horoscopes that come out every Thursday right here on the channel. Alright, what else? Oh, one more thing. Please take everything with a grain of salt and know that even if your sign doesn't make the list today, if you're watching one of my videos, you're probably a little kinky. I just said. Alright, whatever. Here we go, let's get to the action. Alright, what is kinky and how do we find it using astrology? That's a good question, man. Thank you. Okay, well, whatever. Kinky can mean different things to different people, but for today, it simply means sexually deviant. Right? No big deal. And the guys on the list today, well, they take that deviant behavior to a whole new level, But it's still a tight list. And, no, of course, not all of the signs can make it. So, please be cool. All right, let's do it. Place your bets, everyone. Here we go. Up first, number 5 on our list today is an emotional water sign. They like to protect and take care of others, but they're also controlling, power hungry, extremely dark. And they have a very dominant side that comes out when given permission. And that's number 5, Scorpio. Seriously. Now, check it out. For the most part, right, I can imagine that most of you would put Scorpio somewhere on this list, right? But did you know they almost didn't make it? Very seriously. To make the list today, Scorpio had to beat out Cancer. And that's a very difficult thing to do in the kink department because it's not like passionate encounters with Cancer, with Cancers has the potential to slip sideways, or to literally slip sideways in the bedroom. But rather, sideways action is how Cancer moves. Remember, it's the crab. They move sideways. Kink is how they dance their game of love, straight up. Anyways, whether you realize it or not, Scorpio is renowned as being a boring and predictable sign. Like, seriously, they really are. So as intense as these bad boys can be, if they're not willing to step out, well then, then they're boring. And our sexy little moon baby would take number 5 on the list. But there's obviously more. Scorpio is ruled by power-hungry, transformative, very dark Pluto. And to top it all off, Scorpio also rules the 8th house, which is your sex life, in astrology. It's also dark and probing. Scorpio wants to uncover your hidden desires and bring them to life. But none of that's why they made the list today. No, quite simply, Scorpio made the list today because they are, let's just say, deviant and a little bit dark. A lot bit dark. But there's more. Scorpio is power hungry, so expect to be tied up. Scorpios is dangerous, so expect choking, expect cutting, expect biting, expect bleeding, expect blood. Lots of it. And I can't say this enough. Scorpio represents death. In the tarot, they are the death card. So for a Scorpio, if you if you don't experience some kind of bleeding or near-death experience, then they think they're not doing it right. Seriously, and very seriously. And I could go on and on and on about how crazy Scorpio can be sexually. But for now, I'll just say, if you can't handle the Scorpion's poison, then you should probably stay away. Number 5, kinkiest sign of the Zodiac, Scorpio. Seriously. All right. Next up, number 4. Next up is a fire sign with a reputation and is not who you think. Everyone has the ability to be kinky, and a lot of signs are fun and sexually playful. They dress up and experiment. People, simple people just exploring the safe realm of their sexual imagination, and it's really no big deal. But it's also not going to get you on the list today. Nope. Number 5 is easily one of the top weak in the zipper signs. Very seriously. They're physically strong, sexy beyond the most extravagant imagination, and they have the brains to bring that fantasy to life. And that's number 4, Sagittarius. Yeah, seriously. Alright, Sonny, so how does Sagittarius beat out Aries today? Like, what's the deal with that? Aries is game for almost anything, right? Oh, cool. Aries is also ruled by Mars, right? Which is raw sexual energy. So what gives, you know? Alright, my man, that's a good question. Okay, well, first, despite the constant bravado and competitive nature and, you know, throwing stones, okay, Aries aren't exactly off-the-hook deviant by nature. They're innocent and just playing, you know? They represent innocence. And I mean, just look at the comments, right? The ones from Aries and Leo are all about dressing up. Kink for an Aries really is fun and playful and definitely kind of cute. But it's also safe. And the guys on the list today, sure, you know, they play, but they play for keeps. And the sexual needs of the guys on this list are definitely dangerous. They're not always fun and can easily get you a lot worse than just arrested. And that brings us to Sagittarius. Okay, first, Sagittarius is by far and away the least likely to have sex indoors sign. It is not even close. If you look up claustrophobia in a dictionary or Wikipedia or wherever you look stuff up, I bet you're going to see a picture of Sagittarius running naked in the woods. You know, like seriously. And when I think of Sagittarius, you know, the only time, you know, I imagine the only time that Sagittarius wears clothes is when they're inside. You know, just saying, you know, and not to name names, alright? But my sexy Sagittarius friend down the street, well, like seriously, she may be one of the most beautiful person I know inside and out. But honestly, the only time I even ever imagine her wearing clothes is when she comes to visit me. And I think that's just because she doesn't want me to drink her blood. Because like, okay, whatever, so kind of. Alright, like Libra, you know, Sagittarius also uses sex as a weapon. You know, Saggy is sexy, she's aggressive, very straight to the point, lusty. And again, the only time I've even heard of a Sag taking their clothes off inside is to embarrass an ex by having sex in the kitchen, you know, at the party or something to get back at them. And quick FYI here. In addition to knocking off Aries today, Sag also knocks Libra off the list because, you know, Libra's our most voyeuristic sign. Libra likes to watch. So when Sag forgets, right, and starts to play with toys on the balcony, Libra is usually taking pictures from the building across the road. And that, my friends, is an astrological lock. I gotta say, Libra isn't necessarily kinky, but she's definitely a perv. And guys, you can take that money to the bank. Alright, whatever. Okay, Sag makes the list today because they are lusty. Check. They're adventurous. Check. They're playful. Check. They're sexually aggressive. Check. They are clothes optional kind of sign. Check. Check. But none of that is why they made the list today. And truth be told, Sag is adventurous and they're more likely to have sex in the car than a bedroom, right? And they will dress up and they will spank you. But no, they're not going to let you tie them up. And I've said it before, if you try and put a saddle on that centaur, she will absolutely freak the holy bejesus out of you, and it ain't gonna be nice, and it ain't gonna be fun. Seriously. Not in a good way. Okay. Anyways, no. Sag makes the list today quite simply because they're always game for action. Sagittarius is one of the top signs when it comes to naming how many hearts they've broken in the bedroom. And you might not know it by looking at them, but Sag is that busy. You know, I really do care for Saggy. You know, she really is sexy, but she does have a history. Number 4, Sagittarius. Alright, good job, Sonny. Okay, now that I've pissed off all the Scorpios and embarrassed all the Sagittarius, let's get to number 3. Alright, here we go. Number 3 on our list today is a mutable sign, okay? And that's interesting. Pay attention to this as we move along. Anyways, they can not only read your lusty thoughts, but they also want to make them come true. You know, these guys are super romantic, and they'll do almost anything to keep that romantic spark alive. They're the deep, dark, emotional depths of our spiritual existence, and the slightest hint of the garish reality that surrounds our physical world, I've said it a million times, it causes them pain, you know? So it's no surprise that when the lights go down, they expect it to hurt. And that's number 3, Pisces. Alright, first, check this out. Pisces has absolutely no concept of reality, right? And that shouldn't be a surprise. I think we all know that. Because you can't walk around telling everyone you're like the most psychic sign, you know? And then you're also grounded in reality. It just doesn't work like that, alright? Just, you know, straight up. Anyways, as far as Pisces is concerned, you can pretty much do anything you want to them and they'll think it's normal. Like seriously. And that includes biting, scratching, cutting, tying them up, toys, cameras, physical pain, swinging, swing sets, group sex, indoor, outdoor, hot tub, cold tub, nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. And I mean, it's like they expect it, you know? And if you don't do it, if you don't do that to a Pisces, they'll think you don't like them, you know? I know, like, seriously, it really is messed up. I mean, I love Pisces, right, obviously, but they're just crazy bananas, guys. And, you know, I don't mind a little trip to the hospital every now and again, but seriously, I don't want to make it like a religious experience, right? But, okay, check this out, okay? Seriously. And that's another thing. Pisces is one of our most spiritual signs, but they're a water sign, so that means they're dark about it. So psychic and sexually satanic rituals, that's like the Kama Sutra for Pisces. You know, a Leo or Aquarius might use candle wax to, you know, spice up the action, have a little bit of fun. Pisces, they ain't using the wax. They're carving shit into those candles, and they're gonna do some really bad things to you with them. Very seriously. And once again, I love Pisces. They're some of my favorite people in the entire world, but they are absolutely flat out nutso bananas. You know, this will beat the casino every day of the week. Number 3, kinkiest signs of the Zodiac, Pisces. Oh my God, that's not even a flinch. All right, whatever. Okay, all right, calm down, Sonny. Okay, all right. Okay, the water signs are done and the crazy ones are out of the way, right? I mean, like seriously, the crazy ones are done, right? Scorpio might tie you up to a wheel, right, and throw vibrating darts at you, but they're not gonna, like, turn it into a satanic ritual, right? Pisces crazy. All right, okay. Our next sign, number 2 on the list today, represents the union of male and female energies. And although some people consider them our most sexual sign, me included, right? And truth be told, they also masturbate a lot more than even Aries. You know, and that's just a fact. So number 3, another mutable sign, right? What? Number 2. Oh, that's just number 2, another mutable sign. And you should keep that in mind if you're looking for a sexually deviant partner. And that's Gemini. Seriously, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is a sexually inquisitive planet. Mercury simply rules deviant behavior. Guys with a strong Mercury energy lie a lot. That's just the way it is. You know, they bend the truth. They like to experiment and try new things. They're easily bored. They think they're smarter than everyone else, and they try to get away with everything. And at least for this air sign, they really don't give a shit either. Seriously. Without any question, absolutely everything is fair game in the sexually deviant world of Geminis. And when they say, hey Sonny, you need a ride home from the gig, you know, it's not what you think. I'm a double Scorpio, right? I am tough. But Gemini, they just might drug me and lock me up in a dungeon, you know? And what am I gonna do? Call Capricorn? You know, they're already home in bed because, like, they gotta work in the morning or something, you know? Like, seriously. Anyways, I'm just saying, Gemini is deviant, 100%, but they're not crazy, you know? The water signs, they're crazy, you know? Fire signs, they're completely out of control. But the air signs, let's just say, in the immortal words of Gemini, a Gemini I'm close friends with, and let's just call her Mom. Well, she always says, Sonny, just go hang loose, go have some fun. I mean, like, seriously, why are you telling me that, you know? Like, boundaries much, anybody? Whatever. There's more, okay? I think the biggest reason for Gemini being so kinky is that, like Sagittarius, they're just restless. They crave experiences. You know, Aries is into challenging themselves just for, you know, to try something new. Libra likes to watch and learn, you know? Scorpio gets bored and like to shake things up. But Gemini, they just like to experience the new, the creative, and the different. I mean, it shouldn't really be that big of a surprise. Gemini is our most dynamic sign, and it's been said over and over again that Gemini has many personalities, and they all have to be satisfied. But again, I think they're just dynamic. You know, they have wide and varied range of interests and social interactions. Sure, they're boy crazy, and they're again one of our top weak in the zipper signs, but it's Gemini's natural curiosity and lust for experiences that have them ranking so highly today. Number 2, kinkiest sign of the zodiac. And all of their personalities, Gemini. That was easy, you know? And seriously, no offense, but I know a bunch of really sexy Geminis who are, let's just say, they're friendly. Okay. Alright, enough, Sunny. Okay. Alright, let's get to a number 1 kinkiest sign. Any guesses out there? There are a couple of signs that haven't been mentioned yet, right? And I know at least one of them is going to be upset for not making the cut today. But keep in mind, anyone can be kinky or sexually deviant, and it doesn't really depend on your sun sign. But having said that, I'm sure you guys who can figure out number 1. And that is, here we go. Number 1 on today's list is an earth sign. About time, Sonny. I hear you, you know? Anyways, being an earth sign means they like things that are tangible. Think whips. Think chains, handcuffs, fetish clothing. You know, they're also smart and they like to have fun. And that means all the circus stuff that accompanies deviant behavior. Think pole dancing, toys, props, batteries. They're also sequential and planning. So think swingers parties, blow-up dolls, and video cameras. These guys are pretty much into everything. And that, my friends, is all part of the kink game of our number 1 sexually deviant sign, Virgo. Oh, this one isn't even a flinch, guys. Everyone thinks Gemini is two-faced, right? But it's not true. Gemini's just dynamic and indecisive. Virgo, on the other hand, is one person in public and completely different person when the doors are closed. And trust me, unless you're living with one, those doors are closed tight. You know, and actually the only thing I think Virgo isn't into is exhibitionist behavior. So, getting in the jiggy in the woods probably off limits, right? You would think so. But I also know a couple of Virgos who totally slammed it down in the park. You know, movie theaters and cars? Probably not, you might think. Wrong. I don't know what to say. Virgo's so picky and higher than God, right, about everything. But when they're ready, Virgo will break all the rules. Crazy sex parties, Virgo's throwing them, you know? And that's a lot. Virgo likes to control their environment. How about satanic sex rituals? Hello! A ritual is planned and repeated behavior. That is the land of Virgo, you know? How about the Kama Sutra? Well, guys, that's a how-to book, you know? Virgos read that stuff like it's a soup can. I don't know how to say this more clearly. In the Tarot, obviously Virgo is ruled by the Virgin, and that means locked away and repressed. So when the Virgin is set free, she has a lot of let's just say, exploring to do. Now, this was a tough fight for number 1. I mean, Geminis are definitely bisexual, but Virgo, well, if you spend that much time criticizing, it's because you can see the fine details of a deviant world. No, Virgo isn't necessarily dangerous. They're one of our most comedic signs, and they like to help and take care of others. But you know, our sexy accountant needs a little action too. You know, she's just a little freaky about it. Anyways, number 1 most kinky sign of the zodiac, Virgo. And that's the action, everybody. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for hanging out. Hope everybody had a little bit of fun and learned a bit on the way. And if you have your own lists or comments, then leave them in the comment section below. And again, I'll do my best to read the best ones out on the weekly love horoscopes that come out every Thursday right here on the channel. And as always, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe share it with your friends on Facebook. Maybe even subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps, and I super appreciate the support. And with that, from thesunnyside.net, I'm Sunny, reminding everyone that the lists are for fun, right? And maybe a little bit educational. But for today anyways, remember, it's your life, and you're free to live it any freaky, kinky way that you want, and it doesn't matter what anyone says or does. It's still your life, and that is a straight-up action. From thesunnyside.net, I'm Sunny, wishing everyone the absolute best of a beautiful week, and I'll see you soon.